Today what we're going to do is I'm going to talk to you about a bunch of things about story and storytelling, and I'm actually going to feature illustrations both of product innovations. I'm going to actually show you some narratives that are just true stories, and I'm also going to show you some examples from past NSF I-Corps projects. You'll actually see some of the 2-minute videos, about a half a dozen or more of those in tonight's presentation. And today we're going to talk about stories and storytelling. They're kind of two different things. And the way I like to describe these two different things is by saying you can't tell a good story if you don't have a good story to tell, right? You have to have at your foundation, you have to have a great story, you have to have a great narrative if you want to tell a great narrative. And the reason I've chosen Pixar as an illustration is because they understand this really well. People know Pixar movies. A lot of you have seen Pixar films, or most of them are actually really good. And most of them do really well at the box office. This one, Toy Story 3, is the highest grossing animated film in history. Anybody want to guess what Toy Story 3 made at the box office globally? Anybody? What do you think? 500. Anybody else? 800? $1 billion. Yes, $1 billion. I don't know who said $1 billion, but you win. You win. $1 billion. It's actually over $1 billion now. And one of the reasons why this is the highest grossing film of all time is that it's such a great story. And when Pixar works on a film, how long do you think it takes to make a movie? 5 years. It's 5 years. On average, it's about 5 years. Disney's is trying to push them to get them done in 3 to 4 years. But it's mainly 5 years. And of those 5 years, what percentage of the time, how many of those years do you think they're just working on the story? And by the story, I mean, who are the characters? What's the story arc? What's the narrative? Where do the characters go? What's the beginning and the middle? How does it end? How do all those pieces fit together? 60%, 4 years, 80%. That's correct. 80% of the 5 years, they're just working on getting the story straight. Meaning they're working on getting all these elements to work, and then in that last year, they layer on all of those things that we see when we go see a great Pixar movie. So we're going to talk a lot about what it takes to build a great story so that you can then tell a great story. And one of the things that makes a great story is starting with a big problem. And when we talk about your narratives, we're going to talk about that moment in your journey where you identified this conflict that you then had to overcome. And I like to start with a classic narrative problem. A great narrative starts with a big conflict. And I'm going to show you the first part of the Toy Story trailer. And we're going to talk about the conflict and the basic narrative structure of Toy Story 3.
Watch out!
No, just keep playing. Just pretend I'm not here. Does the red light mean it's going?
I've been cold, I've been hungry, now for a while. I guess most of my dreams have come true. With it all,
Andy's going to college. Can you believe it?
Mom, I'm not leaving till Friday.
What are you going to do with these old toys?
'Cause I never get over losing you. No, I'll never get over losing you.
Don't you get it? We're finished. Obsolete. Over the hill.
Now, come on, guys. We all knew this day was coming.
We're getting thrown away.
No one's getting thrown away.
We ain't ever getting played with.
Hold on. This is no time to be hysterical.
It's the perfect time to be hysterical.
Should we be hysterical?
Now. Yes. Maybe, but not right now.
Come on, let's see how much we're going for on eBay.
What do the toys live for in Toy Story 3?
Getting played with.
Getting played with. And what's this major conflict that's established right at the beginning of the movie that we see in the trailer?
No one's going to play with him.
Why is no one going to play with him?
He's going to college.
Andy's going to college. Andy, his boy, right? We saw for 18 years, we saw that great visual of Andy standing next to the transom and measuring him over the years growing up. So no one is going to play with the toys. So as we're watching this film, we're the audience, we go, oh my God, what's going to happen to the toys? Are they ever going to be played with again? And we watch the entire film through all the tribulations and adventures to see if they're going to get played with. That's a great narrative, and it starts with a great problem, with a great conflict up front. Now, let's talk about a product narrative. Every product has a great narrative as well, because in a product narrative, there's actually a customer, and that customer has some interesting journey. So, Social Network. Who's seen The Social Network? Okay, you're all entrepreneurs. You should all see The Social Network. Most of you have. Great. The story of Mark Zuckerberg creating Facebook. And of course, the film tells us about the journey of Mark Zuckerberg. But there's also a great scene in the film where we actually see the product narrative in a 30-second scene. The entire product narrative, the whole story of the product, is told in this scene.
Mark, there is a girl in your art history class. Her name is Stephanie Addis. Do you happen to know if she has a boyfriend? Have you ever seen her with anyone? And if not, do you happen to know if she's looking to go out with anyone?
People don't walk around with a sign on them that says them.
Mark?
Who is the character in this story, in this product story? Who's the character? What? Website is the character. Who's the customer? Who did he build it for? This kid. Right. This guy's the character in the story. And in that moment, that was a customer interview, effectively, without realizing that was a customer interview. He had this epiphany. He had this moment, right? What did he discover about his classmate, his Harvard classmate? What was his insight in that moment?
You wanted to know the relationship.
Well, that wasn't specifically what he was asking for, but what was going on? Let's dig deeper into the insight. What did he want to do?
People are inherently creepy, and they want to know.
People are inherently creepy, maybe. But I want to get someone who's been in that position before and describe why couldn't he just go to Stephanie Addis and say, Stephanie, let's go out on a date?
Social risk.
Social risk. It's awkward, right? So in that moment, he realized that this was really important to him and that he had to solve a problem for his classmate, which was to give him information on other classmates so he could go out on a date or whatever you want to imagine with Stephanie Addis, right? And then he went back and he realized that was the problem he had to solve. Based on that insight, he realized the value proposition was he had to give him that information. The way he did it was he built the rest of the site and he included relationship status. That's a product narrative. Okay. What's an NSF core narrative? Well, we're going to see both product narratives in some places, but today we're going to focus mostly on your journey. So in an NSF core narrative journey, the character in this story is you. You are the protagonists in these stories, and let me show you an illustration of one of these journeys. This is from a past NSF core event.
When I started the program, I honestly thought we were going to put people into MRI machines and measure their brain's response to consumer products.
It didn't take long to figure out that wasn't going to scale, so we wouldn't have a customer.
The most interesting customer meeting that we had was the one with Patrick from SalesBrain. He made it clear that while the science is important, having science credibility is important, the overall message and how you communicate it is in some ways much more critical.
By far the most pivotal meeting we had was with YouTube, where they gave us the problem that in order for users to click on their thumbnails, they need to be visually appealing to their users. And that fit so well with our technology that from that moment we had a value proposition.
Sophie was concerned that an N of 1, YouTube, wasn't going to be a big enough market. But when you think about it, every single sports station, every news station, every TV studio, and every movie studio, they all use the thumbnails as the gateway to the advertisements. That's a big market.
The guy that I spoke to at Hulu yesterday was like, hold on, so let me see if I can understand. If you can get us more clicks, I can make money from clicks. And it's like, that's exactly what our technology does.
Without a doubt, the iCore program pushed us to push the limits of our technology. I always knew the value of our science, but the iCore program helped me see that if we can predict the best thumbnail for one video, there's really no reason that we can't predict the thumbnail for 20,000 videos every minute. By talking to customers, we found a massive problem. So I guess the only thing to do now is go out and solve it.
So Sophie went on this journey where she started going off down one path, assuming she was going to be doing these MRIs of people's brains, and she ended up in a very different place. We'll deconstruct some of these videos as we get deeper into it, but I just want to show you this narrative structure can apply in lots of different ways, and hopefully by the end of today, you'll understand what are those elements of constructing the narrative, and I'll give you some suggestions on maybe how to put them together in a little bit more interesting way.